There's different perceptions of what's going on, and all I know is that for a very long time I've been aware that it's been a sense that I'm on a mission here on this planet. And they came up to me and they were like, this Mandela Effect is really messing with my head because their neighbor died and then he was back alive again. We're tested at 23,000 years ago. And
wow. So this is 23,000 years old.
Yeah, it also has writing on it, and a language that's never been seen before.
Hey everyone, I'm with Mathues Imhotep, and you are, a published author. You went really hard in researching, and one of your expertise is like ancient Egyptian culture, as well as, you do a lot with geometry, the sacred geometry as well, correct?
Yeah. It's an esoteric deep dive. The rabbit hole of ancient wisdom really has been my thing for about 27 years, actually.
Really? Yeah, and on top of that, then you also, there's so many different things that, just like myself, that you dive into, that you really research, such as Mandela Effect, and you have, we were talking about time travel earlier, and then on top of that, you have kind of a little bit more secret things that you're kind of working on that you can't really talk about with some very important people, but we won't go into that. But just kind of letting people know that.
I can hint at that. I've been sort of a top insider for a long time, working behind the scenes with a new financial system over a decade ago that we almost activated. The cabal reared its ugly head, and it was way more deeply rooted in the banks, moles everywhere. But we had built a financial system that we were going to turn on in 2012. And we had treaties with 109 countries. Well, was it 209? Yeah, it was 209. 209, almost all countries, ready to onboard in a new system. That gave me a lot of deep experience with elders and all this kind of behind the scenes talk that we've stayed very deeply connected with. And so there's a lot going on. We would call that the white hat arena, and so there are positive things happening there, and it's something that it's a double-edged sword. I get to know what's going on, but I can't tell you.
Right. So we can get a little bit into that, as well as you have some very interesting artifacts, including it looks like an alien artifact. We'll get into that a little bit later as well. So I'm kind of excited about that, but. I guess starting out with, since we're kind of talking about this, this great reset is right, all the media are now talking. In fact, they're using the term great reset. Time magazine had this really in-depth article on why we need a great reset and breaking down all these so-called scientists and different personalities and professors and whatever talking about this great reset. And what's obviously from what you're talking about is more of the holistic, that would benefit humanity kind of, system reset of our financial aspect. What they're talking about seems very different. So what's your understanding of, especially what they're talking about?
Well, it's interesting how the opposition takes some of our terminology, woke. Doesn't sound like awake at all.
No, not at all. Right.
And they want us to, by hook, line, and sinker their version of what reality should be. So the quantum leap, if you will, of everybody's consciousness, blasting off, is just happening whether we like it or not. There's been a tsunami of awareness that's just rolling across the planet. And they've been trying to stay out in front of it, And obviously there's talk about how, we have a God gene, and we want it turned on and others want it turned off, right?
Right, exactly.
So, there's different perceptions of what's going on. And All I know is that for a very long time, I've been aware that it's been a sense that I'm on a mission here on this planet.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I don't really feel like I'm from here. You know,
Yeah.
if you get right down to it, and
I
it's
completely
been,
understand.
it's been, you know, the grand plan, the divine plan is to wake everybody up as soon as possible, so that we can just, you know, transcend into a unified reality or a heart-based reality.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people here who are awake and aware of what's going on feels that they're here for a reason, you know,
Yeah.
because this evil that we're facing is a global, like, never in the history of our, you know, at least the history that we know of, have we faced something this massive and big, because we haven't had the internet, we haven't had this mass means of transportation, and on top of that, these, like, you know, kind of the governments kind of working together. So we're like, a lot of times I feel like we're facing this uphill battle of like David and Goliath kind of thing. But, you know, and then I hear people saying, well, you know, like, where is God? And it's like, well, we're all here. You know, it's like I feel like this is kind of a mission that a lot of us have, is that we chose to be here during this time specifically, because it's like, this is the time that needs the most help. And I feel like a lot of our past lives that we've had have kind of like helped us to prepare for this time. I mean, would you agree?
Oh, for sure, absolutely. You know, this has been a grand plan in the making for millions of years. You know, honestly, and that's exactly what the Ascended Masters told me when they used to talk to me in my head a lot. They said that you know, we've been perfecting this for a long time, and I talk about how we've been in these time loops, you know, of perfection as well, where we're optimizing these gates and portals and, you know, these 1212s, all these numbers that everybody's talking about, right? Whether you see 1111, you know, you're getting activated by these synchronicities. And so, you know, this has been something that the higher ups in the, you know, the concept of the guides and the councils and everybody upstairs, we've been trying to perfect for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
And so, you know, you have different ways you can look at the same coin. You know, one is that we're winning, and the other is that, you know, we're behind a timeline, and ultimately it's really so important for all of us to just, you know, take the deep dive and surrender and let go and let God, because that's truly the way out. You know, going within and tapping that divine inner knowing is what people are waking up to, isn't it?
Exactly. And it was interesting because, you know, we're in Arizona right now, and we had Disclosure Con, and John D'Souza, he was in his presentation, he was comparing superhuman compared to transhumanism. And it's kind of exactly what you're talking about. It's like when we truly go within ourselves and search for that divinity and truly search like through God, through us, we can achieve these means. Like, we have everything given to us. It's just like we forget, or we're so wrapped up in technology that we lose ourselves. And it's like, you know, instead of truly looking within and trying to find ourselves, it's like, oh, I'm just going to take a pill, or I'm just going to take this and that, you know. And it's like we're trying to ascend through this technological ways, which we start losing the spiritual side of things when we do that.
It's got to be a balance for sure. You know, there's timelines where, whether it be the Al Bielek, and he went to the future, and the AI, it wasn't that it was bad, it was just everybody was like, you know, lethargically on the couch, like everything's good, you know, the robot takes care of me, and, you know, so you're not aspiring to your spiritual, you know, height. And
Mm-hmm.
so, you know, that is it, everything in balance. Yeah, there's a lot of things that come to mind with where we're at right now. And so the important thing is, like you say, you know, we have the key to everything,
Mm-hmm.
you know.
And so right now, like we're you know, there's a lot of people out there that are losing hope during this time, you know, seeing what's going on with, you know, just all of it, everything in the world right now. And there's also people gaining a lot of faith through this time, because that's really the only thing that we have at the moment to get us through here. Is there anything that you can say that you've heard that, what's going on with our government and after the election and everything else? Is there positive things that are happening behind the scenes?
Oh, for sure. And, I also had a flashing thought moments ago, the importance of realizing that these oppositional tactics continue to fail, or they backfire. Let's put it that way, right? So everybody's stuck at home. What are they doing? They're tuning in, right? They're not checked out. They're like, oh, I could start an online business, or, so all the attempts to sort of suppress us in all the different ways to capitalize on fear. It's so interesting how, it just has a counter effect. Like people are actually, choosing the wake-up path instead of, we're all just going to commit suicide because, we have no power.
Right.
That is not what's happening.
That's so true. And what do you see us going? Like, how do you see the future in the next, half a year, especially with coming out of the election? Is something positive brewing behind the scenes?
Oh, absolutely. There is intention to take our country back. There's intention, and these are beyond intention. I'm using the word intention to suggest that I don't know quite as much as I do. There's new financial systems that are being implemented that are white hat oriented to empower people, to give them what they need. So if everybody was, a little more comfortable and given opportunities to learn and evolve, we would be taking care of, we'd take matters into our own hands and we'd solve these solutions. So really it's about empowering the people and teaching them, what's possible. So the things that are being planned actually fully in effect are creating a very positive outcome.
Yeah, I mean, that's, we're hearing different sides of things, and that's why it's kind of, the information that's coming out right now, it's been kind of, it's not as much as it used to be before the election, obviously, and I think that's why also people are kind of, getting anxious about what's happening, especially at the White House right now. So, but and we're hearing different things as well, and
well, unfortunately, Trump didn't do what he was supposed to do. That was a letdown.
That's what we heard too.
Yeah, a lot of people were surprised and upset that he didn't. But he was loyal to family, and he was talked out of things that he was supposed to do, and so we'll see what role he plays in this next envisioned outcome. It's probably not quite what people think.
It's exactly what I would say.
Yeah.
when people ask me, I'm almost like said that word for word, exactly how you said it.
But there's, there's an opportunity to be involved, but
yeah.
it has to be, conducted like a military operation where everybody does what they're supposed to do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's very true. So I kind of want to change topics now a little bit, because we had a very interesting conversation, and you just had an interview with Paula Asteria too, and we're talking about, you guys were talking about timelines, and time travel. So this is probably one of my favorite subjects.
Oh, right.
Is time travel. Like I just love this topic. It's just so, I think of all my favorite movies, and almost all of them have some element of time travel in them. So what's your, coming, like we were talking about the Mandela Effect too, and so, I think everyone out there kind of knows what the Mandela Effect is, but, it's like things that we think are one way and then they're not. And like one of the ones that really has blown me away recently is Queen's song "We Are the Champions." How at the end of the song they don't say "of the world" anymore. Right. It's just "We are the champions," and it just ends.
Yeah.
And everyone's like, "Oh, you're thinking of the live version of it," and it's like, who listens? They don't play the live version on the radio.
Right.
So anyway, it's just. So, and this is like one of my favorite topics to really get into, because I feel like it does revolve around time travel. So what's your kind of understanding of all of this and all these changes that are happening?
Well, it's interesting how that first came into my awareness. Let me start there. I'm like working on some of my sacred geometry art, And I just had, back, I don't know, maybe 95 or something when I had the news on, or somebody had it on in the room because I don't pay attention that much. But I heard the anchor go, and all 50 states are, doing this. And I'm like, what the hell? Where'd they go to school? There's 52 states. Like, wouldn't they know? What is that about? And that was my first, like, there wasn't other evidence, but that's where my mind goes, like, what the heck? And then obviously that was one of the first things that came out, maybe, I don't know, years later, right? Where it's like, no, well, some people think that there's 52 states. And that's the timeline I'm from.
So that's fascinating because, like, I thought there was 52 states as well. And then I got a little bit confused on it, and everyone's like, "Oh, you're thinking of Puerto Rico, which isn't really a state."
Right.
And it's like, no, I don't think it was Puerto Rico. But did you know our flag changed?
Right.
So it used to, the Union, the blue star box, used to be on the red line, and it was extended out, and now it's on the white line, and it's more square.
Right.
So that's always been like that, and you can find a lot of flags the other way.
So I love how they're bringing this into the media too. We were talking about Hollywood, and we need to have more of this fictional stuff that drops these, wisdom bombs, right?
Right.
Like Man in the High Castle. Did you see that one?
I know what it is.
I've
seen like a couple episodes. Everyone's like, "Dude, this is like the best."
Because it gets deep into Mandela. It's so
really
awesome how it does that.
Look
But
at
but we'll have more of that coming. We really have a lot of powerful stories to tell. And frankly, I was bringing out one of them about my own experience with a time traveler guy and cosmic scientist dude. He was an individual that when he went to sleep, he was more awake, traveling the universe, on ships. And when I first met him, he actually, there was a gal that introduced us, and she was like, well, it was late at night, stay over in my guest room. She's like, will you take me to the Palladium system tonight where I can accept a job in the university, and while I sleep, I'm teaching people there? And I'm like, what? I'm 25 years old. I'm thinking, are you kidding me? And anyway, I went to sleep, and I had an experience that actually, rocked my world.
Interesting.
That something like that happened where I was on board a ship. And so having this guy in my life was really a powerful thing. And he taught me that, speaking of, the Mandela Effect, the way that I think that it actually is occurring is that you've got these transdimensional realities that are superimposed over each other, and the Planck level, the microscopic difference of frequency, like there was a Star Trek episode, where there's people around us and you can't see them because they're vibrating at a different frequency, right? And they have to get everybody back to the same frequency. So this is literally like, what we're talking about is these superimposed realities. There's 7 of them, he said. And each one of them has been going through like a ascension, and when they go through a particular stargate, there's this alignment that happens.
Interesting.
That they can optimize this consciousness, and everybody, lives in a utopian reality. And he was telling me that all of them, almost 5 of them had already been, because this was 20 years ago, had been optimized. And so when they optimize, they collapse onto themselves and become, only one timeline. And so if you can imagine,
it's like, the timelines are starting to converge. You would have 2 parallel universes like this, and slowly they kind of converge into one.
Right.
Correct?
And what happens is you have leftovers from each one.
Okay, that makes sense.
So like when I asked through, my partner Megan about, what Upstairs had to say about how come, me with my study of the Bible and stuff, like how on earth are they going to talk about a wolf?
Yeah.
Well, because in that timeline, it was simply that.
Yeah.
And it's just a fragment that's merged into this one as it collapsed. And that's pretty plain and simple.
Yeah, and actually, I mean, that was one of the things that, one of the possible scenarios that I was thinking too. And I think that, to me, that was more of the one that seemed accurate. I do think that they're trying to do things and changing the timeline as well to you're talking about the global syndicate thing, to have the timeline in their favor per se. But I do agree with you. And actually, one of the things that I found after doing Edge of Wonder was I had a really strong deja vu one day, and while I was having deja vu, I was reading a comment from someone saying, do you think deja vu has to do with the Mandela Effect? As I was experiencing deja vu. And I thought, this is really fascinating. And I noticed that every time I have deja vu, I notice a really big change. And so I started realizing exactly what you're saying, that so when we have deja vu, something in our timeline is now changing.
That's interesting. My take on it is, we're sampling in our dream state probable timeline realities by choice, and that we're reminded or we're, flagged as, yes, this was the fork in the road that you wanted to go down.
Right.
And you're like, oh yeah, I made that choice in my dream, and so you're remembering that moment or whatever. I literally had a deja vu last for 20 minutes when I went to Egypt for the first time.
That's crazy.
And I reflected back that it was a dream I had a decade ago. And I knew what was happening for 20 minutes.
Well, and that's what I'm saying with this Mandela Effect, the deja vu thing. I don't think that's like the sole thing of deja vu. I think there's a lot, and this is just my understanding.
Probably multifaceted.
I think so too, because all I know is that somehow the past, present, and future seem to be converging at that point when we experience deja vu, and it's almost like could be experiencing multiple timelines as well as different aspects of time in that instant. So it's almost like you were saying, you're kind of can see, this is what I was supposed to do, or this is what I was going to do, but it's not going to work out, so I need to change it to not do this or whatever it is, So it's a very interesting and surreal experience. But it's interesting because I've been talking to more people about this, because I'm telling people, like, when you have deja vu, just pay attention to see if you see anything related to the Mandela Effect afterwards. And some people have told me, like, I have noticed something after that.
That's a really cool twist.
So because it seems like things are changing a lot. And whenever anything big happens, someone said the recent eclipse that we had, there was a massive change in something during that time. There were some weird Mandela effects that started through that too. So it's really, really hard to say.
Did you study the part where like people are dead and then they're alive?
Oh my gosh, that to me, this is the weirdest thing for me, because in the 90s I used to really like this band Days of the New. And I forget the lead singer's name. I think his first name is Travis. Could be wrong though. But so after their second CD, I remember him dying of an overdose. It was an overdose or just doing a lot of drugs in 2001. I was watching MTV and the band Tantric was on there, which came from Days of the New. And they asked them, why didn't you continue on as Days of the New? And they said, without Travis, we felt like we couldn't be Days of the New anymore, and we needed to form a new band. And this friend of mine, it really hit her really hard. Like I remember she was almost crying to me on the phone, and so just recently after doing the show, there was a friend of mine that I was talking to, and she's like, I used to date one of the guys in Days of the New. And I was like, oh yeah, I remember that band. And I was like, but they're Tantric now. And she's like, oh no, they got together recently. They just played a show. And I was like, what do you mean they played a show? Like the lead singer's dead. And she's like, no, I'm really good friends with Travis. I just saw him not too long ago. And I'm like, what are you talking about? Like he died. Like that affected my life actually. And she's like, no, he's alive. He's on Facebook. You can find him. He just went through a really bad drug phase, and that's why they broke up. And I was like, this is weird.
So, I met some people through our Deep Disclosure tour, and they came up to me and they were like, this Mandela Effect is really messing with my head because their neighbor died and then he was back alive again.
No way.
Can you imagine that?
That is weird. That is super weird.
That is intense, right?
Do you know the actor Mini-Me who played in Austin Powers? I forget his. I mean, the character Mini-Me. I forget his real name. At the top of my head. Do you remember him dying?
No.
Okay, so my brother called me on this one because both of us remember him dying in the mid 2000s, and Mike Myers was on MTV again talking about it, and then it turns out he just died last year, and we were just like, what? This is so weird. So strange stuff, but those personal ones like that, that's when it gets really intense.
I had a personal one myself. I have this connection, I guess you could say, over a decade with Sandra Bullock. She's been like in my dreams and different things. And,
Really?
And I felt like I was going to make movies with her and stuff, you know, because the dreams were all about that. And so she met this guy, right? The gray-haired guy, like sort of recently, and it was all in the news. They got married. And then, like, I'm watching, you know, the rags and stuff, and like, no, they didn't get married. And I'm just like, what the heck, you know? Because I thought it was all over, my chance to meet this person. You know, I lamented it. And then, like, wait, they're not married? Months later, I'm like, I still have a chance?
That's so weird. That's so weird. Yeah, it's really weird to think about, like, your life. Like, I was looking at some old photos. I used to be really obsessed with Karate Kid. You know, and that's one of the ones that everyone says his headband changed. Like, it used to be blue, and now it's red, and it's like a sun, and it used to be something different.
Yeah.
And, or it's the other way around. It's blue. It used to be red. That was it. And it used to be a sun, and now it's like something different. And I was going through some old photos, and I was obsessed with Karate Kid. And sure enough, like, I created the Karate Kid headband with my mom, and I'm wearing it, and I'm wearing the red one. And it's blue.
Oh, wow.
So I was like, I looked at it and I'm like, this is really weird, because here it is kind of personally now. Like, why would I create a red headband trying to be Karate Kid when it's blue? Like, I definitely would have made it blue.
Right.
So
no
it's
doubt.
super weird.
Yeah.
Yeah, this whole thing, you know. But so what's your take on time travel? You think it's possible, correct?
Oh, for sure. I mean,
Yeah.
it happened to me. I was, like I indicated earlier, I was driving down the road, and I had somebody with me, and we both experienced it, where it wasn't just, say, the ET version of, like, you've lost time, right? It was literally, it was nighttime, we're talking, we know the exits, I'm going to be home soon, and all of a sudden we're like 5 exits back, and disoriented and going, what just happened? Wait a minute, we were just talking about this at this exit, and we were 3 exits from being home. What happened? You know, and she's an interesting character, and she felt like she clearly knew what happened, like she's way out there, right? And I was like, okay, I'm not satisfied. This just like rocked my world. Like, we just time traveled.
That's great.
You know, and I can bend time. Many people can experience that, where you're, you know, oh, you're late, and all of a sudden you're like 5 minutes early. You know, so you know, there are things that you can easily do. Time is malleable for sure.
Yeah. Definitely not linear, for sure.
Yeah, so
yeah, you have
Presto.
a very interesting artifact, so I think let's talk about this.
yeah, because a gentleman that I was introduced to from one of my mining partners has been recovering these out of the ground in a location in Mexico, and he's got a lot of them, hundreds and hundreds of these. Some are shaped, some are tablet, you know, just with writing on them. This one here has spaceships in the eyeballs. It's got, clearly looks like an alien. Mm-hmm. It's got ISIS up here on the top with like another little spaceship right up here. And on the back, it has Anubis and another character, Egyptian character, along with a pyramid with an eye in it. So this pyramid and an eye thing has been around a long time, you know, and it's like we're reclaiming our esoteric power wisdoms, because these things were actually tested by 2 universities. The ones that had the little bit of a resin to glue on a gem were tested at 23,000 years ago. And
wow. So this is 23,000 years old.
Yeah, it also
That's
has writing on it, and a language that's never been seen before.
No
Well, actually, apparently some SEALs were visiting this guy and saying, this is the same writing that's under Antarctica, down in the hidden location there.
So I also heard that there was a woman that I was talking to, and her brother is in the Navy, and they were underwater in a submarine, and they came across this gigantic pyramid-like structure. At first they were like, oh, this is probably just something like some kind of natural formation. But he said that as they got closer, they were doing an analysis on it, and sure enough, there was all these drawings on it, you know. So she didn't tell me what exactly it was, but I would imagine it was something very similar to something that you would find on here. So that's super interesting, and the fact that it is like a kind of like your stereotypical gray alien, that's even.
So our mining partners have put this under microscopes also, and what they see is that these are not etched; these are laser carved. The writing on here is the same as when they use their lasers and they looked at it under magnification. The way that it would, present is identical.
Wow, really?
Mm-hmm.
And he found this in Mexico.
Yes.
In a mine, you said?
Well, they were mining in the area, and so they actually just kind of stumbled upon it. It was on the surface, and they started to notice things sticking out of the ground. And that's why I was like earlier saying, is it just a Mandela Effect? Like, are we in a different timeline? Like, why didn't they find this stuff earlier? And now there's like a lot being found.
Interesting.
Where you have Egyptian, like, mentioned in Mayan territory.
So that is super crazy, because how in the world would something Egyptian end up in Mexico?
Right.
Correct? And on top of that, it's like I've been really diving into a lot of research on this. In fact, I'm going to do a whole series on ancient civilizations. And what's fascinating is that you're finding a lot of the same architecture related to how things are built all over the world. I mean, from Egypt to the Mayan culture to even what's being found in America, some of the ancient ruins here. So, and then on top of that, some of the same writing. And then also, we were just at the petroglyphs here in Arizona in Snowflake and in that area, and there's Chinese writings on them.
Yeah.
So, and those are at least 800 years old. So it's super fascinating how a lot of our history seems to be hidden from us. And one of the points I was making is that there's a Chinese map that was drawn in the early 1400s that shows the whole world as a globe with North America on it. So,
well, I like to reference it for forbidden archaeology too.
Yeah.
They're finding a hammer, whatever inside of a dinosaur footprint, or these kinds of things where they were never allowed to talk about it, and they would be shut down if they did, right? And that was going on, a couple decades ago, literally. Who knows what else they found because it was so suppressed.
And you have a lot of other artifacts.
I do. I have quite a few more that are smaller, and it's interesting because the ET alien motif is all throughout it. So you've got Mayan-looking guys, interfacing with extraterrestrials, with Egyptians, all in the same, storyline. I also made a video that is up on my YouTube channel that highlights all the best ones that I found out of looking at hundreds of these tablets. So that's pretty fascinating.
And where can people find that?
That's on my Mathues Imhotep, YouTube channel. So just / Mathues Imhotep, MATHUES. Yeah.
We'll put the link below.
Yep.
People
yeah.
see it. So.
Right. And so that's a fun one because it really shows you like stargates, it shows you planets, it shows you even like what appears to be a human mother like giving birth to a alien-headed creature.
Whoa, that's crazy. That's crazy.
So what's that all about, right?
Wow.
Hybrid is, a thing of the past.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Really amazing.
So, yeah, lots of fun stuff.
Yeah, it really is. Well, I think we're going to wrap it up here, but this was phenomenal. This is such a pleasure to see. So unique. I've never seen anything quite like that before. So
right on. Yeah. And my book is full of all kinds of amazing things. We have lots of fun deep dives there. You have
the Seven Seal. Right?
Yeah.
You have 3 volumes.
I do.
Correct?
Right.
So.
I do, and it deep dives into a lot of things. So it covers like the Gnostic scriptures and what did they really know about transcending consciousness. It covers cracking the codes on like the metamechanics of the universe. Like, a lot of people are beginning to understand frequency and the power of 432 and how,
Oh, yeah.
like, so let's say the music got changed, from 432 to 440, right? And so, but I really get into the value of a lot of other numbers that are part of a master number system, and I reveal how I remember that from being involved in like ancient mystery schools where we understood how to work with all these harmonics. So yeah, it's a pretty fun journey.
And where can people find you?
Well, you've got the stargatecodes.com, which is like a portal to all of my material, my YouTube channel, and my deep disclosure, the white hat intel. And so another one is number 7 sealcodes.com. And so, yeah.
Great. And people can find the book there.
Well, the book's up on Amazon, too.
Amazon. Okay.
I mean, if you just search the internet for, 7th Seal or Mathues Imhotep, you'll find me.
Great.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, this has been a really awesome interview. I'm glad we were able to sit down and have this.
Yeah,
So
thank you.
we'll definitely do more of these in the future.
As we can talk more about what's happening with some of the white hat stuff, I'll definitely, be working through the two of you, Apollo and yourself, to get it out there.
Well, thank you, Matthias, for being here. This has been a great and very enlightening interview. So until next time, you guys, we'll see you out on the edge.